Let's have a look back at the highlights of what was an absolute thriller. So Victor Vanderpoel there just pulling his foot out at the start early on. Thibaut Del Grosso leading, Laurent Sweeck, Tonarts, Mathieu, Vanderpoel all getting up there. Right from the off today, Thibaut Del Grosso looked good and comfortable, as did Laurent Sweeck.
Yeah, Del Grosso's skills looked very, very good today, and I think every race that he's done, he's got a little bit stronger and lasted kind of another 5 minutes as such, deeper into the race. Here we saw a mistake from Vanderpoel, a little bit too close to the wheel of Del Grosso ahead of him, and just saw some mistakes from him in the earlier laps as he was trying to follow other riders through. But then once he hit the front, he really made his move on that second lap.
He did. I mean, it wasn't without errors, but it's just that the fact that the speed that he's able to ride this course at, the errors don't make as much difference to him as they do to other riders.
No, exactly. I think that second lap attack was just a kind of a brute force thing, and he was really trying to kind of force his way out of the group, out of the chasers. But Sweeck used his sand skills to ride back to the wheel of Vanderpoel, and I think that gave Vanderpoel a little bit of a shock because we had 5 riders at the front of the race going into the 3rd lap.
And it's not something we see very often, a group of riders coming back in the way he did. And that shot there, that this was, unfortunately for Sweeck, I think maybe if Sweeck had managed to stay with them at that point, when Vanderpoel went, he had to avoid Tonarts here as well, that Sweeck's sand skills early on, when Vanderpoel went here, he was already gapped. And perhaps if he had managed to stay there, you never know what would happen, but that's all neither here nor there. But this was the point where Vanderpoel made his move.
Yeah, I think that effort from Sweeck to ride back to Vanderpoel on that second lap really cost him energy, but also cost him that position in that group behind, and it really cost him that when Vanderpoel went, like you say, he was caught up behind the mistake of Tonarts, but just was out of position, eventually worked his way through. Once Vanderpoel was clear, actually a little bit like Namur, once he went clear on the final lap at Namur, there was less and less mistakes from him, and I think that's what we saw today. Once he was fully alone, fully focused, there was actually less mistakes from the world champion.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When Vanderpoel's at the head of within a group, the errors creep in because he's not quite going fast enough.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He also can't see the rut ahead of him. He can't carry the speed through where he thinks he should be going a little bit faster to get him out of trouble as such. But we saw Sweeck doing a really good job in that chasing group, but it was Del Grosso with a couple of laps to go that looked the strongest within the group. Looked like he was going to ride away to that second place at one point.
He was really stretching his back out all day, all race long, wasn't he? This is a real heavy race on your back.
It really is. It's really, really tough on the body, on that lower back, those muscles at the top of the glutes that kind of force a lot of power through the pedals. You see a great example there, that kind of hover move from Niels Vanderpoel to get the power out. And then we saw that final lap mistake from Del Grosso that took him out of the battle for that final podium spot.
Sweeck's looking good if he wants the World Cup overall, isn't he, in the way he's starting to find that consistency.
He really is, and he's obviously come across a couple of races yesterday in Antwerp and Koksijde today that really, really suit him down to the ground. He'll kind of extend that lead in the overall over almost everyone, apart from obviously Vanderpoel, who's quite far behind in terms of the overall points right now. Like you say, there are some races on the rest of the World Cup calendar that won't suit Sweeck.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of my favorite races, and especially with the changes they did, I like it even more. So I really had fun today.
What made you decide your attack?
I think I just was looking a bit what the others were doing, and then yeah, I just went to the front. And in the sand, it's always easier if you can do your own lines, and yeah, if there's mistakes behind, there's a gap coming, and then I decided to go for it.
Our top 10 looks like this. Mathieu Vanderpoel takes it ahead of Laurent Sweeck, Niels Vanderpoel, Del Grosso, Art Smith-Schurer going down through our top 10. Just outside the top 10 there, Lars van der Haar, Pim Ronhaar, with Ryan Camp in 16th, Filippo Fontana up there in our top 20. And our World Cup now looks like this. Laurent Sweeck at the top extends his lead to 146 points to Michael Vanter, now it's 128. Niels van der Putte up to third. Mathieu Vanderpoel up to fourth. Thibaut Nace drops. And tomorrow's race from Hofstad, you'll be able to join Ollie Becketel and Helen and Ian. Helen Wyman and Ian Field for tomorrow.